Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Near Media Podcast. Today with me, Greg Sterling, as always, and the lovely and talented Mike Blumenthal. And we're joined today by Michel of GMB API, the co-founder, and he's in the Netherlands, so it's quite a bit later for him than it is for us. Welcome, Michel. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. Since it's relatively early in the morning, I'm not as sharp as I might be, but I'll try and compensate for that. And why don't you tell people a little bit about GMB API for context? I mean, we've known you for a while. We've
Yep.
had a lot of interaction with you, but tell for people that aren't familiar with GMB API, what do you guys do?
So we are a local SaaS, a local SEO SaaS company. We specialize in Google business profiles, but everything really that helps companies increase local visibility, content, reputation, but also other networks. We've started out specializing very much on or focusing very much on Google, but we're expanding reach a little bit beyond Google at the moment as well. We are.
So what does that mean when you say beyond Google? Specific names, specifics.
Apple Business Connect we're going to add to our portfolio, and we've got several citation networks that we can now connect. We keep our we stay loyal to our core. So Google Business Profiles is the core of your local visibility. It is the source of truth for our software. So our software is kind of a layer on top of that, if that makes sense.
Did you add the citation outside citations because of the LLMs? Was that what motivated that?
That was one of the reasons why we thought, okay, we might.
Okay, great. Well, so you have the benefit of being in the Netherlands and working both in North America and Europe, and we pay attention to Europe, but we've done that primarily in the context of the DMA, DSA, the sort of regulatory and antitrust activities over there focused on Google. I used to work for Uberall, which was based in Berlin, and so I had some familiarity with the European markets when I was doing that, but that's now several years ago. Why don't you give us a sort of a snapshot of what you see as the major differences between the European markets or Western European markets and North America right now? What's really different, if anything?
I mean, the whole regulatory environment has caused some of the changes to arrive late here in Europe. The AI overviews were launched quite late, and AI mode was as well. And we're still seeing good old map pack on quite a lot.
Are you still seeing dual map packs?
Still doing dual map packs. Yeah,
Google introduced dual map packs about the time that the public hearings occurred several years ago. They introduced dual map packs into the European market only for some reason.
Yeah, we're still seeing that. So, it's a little bit. It's from Google's perspective or from the AI perspective, we're maybe lagging a little bit in terms of the development. I think France, particularly, is still being punished by our AI overlords for not complying. But the rest of the European Union is now, I think, we're also enjoying AI mode at the moment. But I still think we're a little bit behind what the US is doing. So we look at the US also to see what's coming here, and that's maybe the tech side. I think on the business side, I mean, I always feel like competition is so much more cutthroat in the US than it is in Europe in terms of local competition. Had that whole thing where people would.
You're talking about like bad black hat and corrupt activity and all of that stuff. People review extortion and people spamming and defaming their competitors, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, like changing the address of your competitor, for example, that was a US disease. That doesn't happen here. But unfortunately, review extortions are everywhere. They're
well, that's
here
coming
as well.
That's coming typically from offshore somewhere, is it not?
Yeah.
So, what was interesting to me, a few years ago, we did some research. We did some user behavior research in the construction, the contractor research, Mike. It was Spain, France, and Ireland.
Right. Yes. Or Germany.
Germany?
It was Germany, France, and Spain.
France was one of the markets. I mean, we did a couple of projects.
Germany and Ireland it was.
We did a couple of projects in Europe, and France was one of the markets that we looked at, and we were looking at essentially a kind of a home services kind of query. It was specifically for kitchen remodel was the kind of scenario that we were exploring and how people went about finding contractors. And my recollection, and Mike, you can contradict me, my recollection was that in France, we saw relatively few or fewer local packs. Is that right, Mike? That was my
We
recollection.
saw fewer local packs. Correct.
Right. Is that your experience, Michel? Is the
Not
local
really.
pack any less visible in France?
Not that I know. No, I wouldn't. I'm not sure if I would notice that.
I'm just wondering because it was something that, we the way we do this is we get several hundred users to pursue a search query, and we ask them to look at businesses and then make a choice. And these videos can be quite involved depending on how seriously the individual is engaged. And so we each watch these videos ourselves, and that was my recollection. And it was just interesting to see that the SERP was quite. My overall memory is that the SERP was quite different in the 3 different markets for the same kinds of queries. And
behaviors were a little different too. In France,
Yeah.
users were much more tuned to the brands that were
To brands.
involved in kitchen renovations. In France and Germany, users read the reviews more than in the United States typically, and more than in Ireland. In other words, there was like 50% of them actually took the time to read reviews, where in the United States, it's often 25% read the reviews. So it's quite a bit more sort of engagement with the reviews. So it's behavior difference too.
Yeah, do you see that with the Europeans generally actually reading review text in earnest? Whereas, as Mike just said, we see a lot of looking at star ratings and review counts, but not as much where people are actually reading the text.
I would say if you're very involved in a purchase, such construction is definitely one of those categories.
Right. So-called higher consideration.
Yeah, the higher considerations you would read the reviews, and I think lots of people would. I would personally even do that for booking a restaurant. I'm not sure what the exact differences are between the European markets in that sense, to be honest. But yeah, people read reviews. I know that.
Well, so let's talk about reviews, because that's one of the things that you've done quite a lot of work on and quite a lot of tracking on. And what are the big sort of patterns that you've seen, especially around? I mean, right now there's a whole issue with more aggressive review removal and review appeals. Talk about that a little bit. What's going on with that stuff?
Yeah, so we just launched research. We actually, it was Mike's tip to monitor deleted reviews. And we implemented that quite a while ago. I think 2.5, 3 years now, which basically means that at the moment you onboard on our software, we pull all of your reviews in. And then when we download your reviews again, 24 hours later, we will see which reviews have changed or vanished. This gives us a perfect view of deleted reviews. Yeah, we have that data now for 2.5, 3 years on roughly 60,000 businesses. So across a multitude of countries. Not sure how many, but sort of 70, 80, I think. And it's interesting. We see those spikes. When Google changes their algorithm, we see the spike. It's never sort of all of a sudden across everything, but it comes in stages and phases. But at the moment, we're seeing, or we have seen it increase from the start of the year. A bit of a spike, sort of at the end of Q1. And a bit of spike sort of in July.
And the spike is deleted reviews,
Deleted
removals.
Yeah, deleted reviews. Yeah, and when we look at what type of reviews are being deleted, it's mostly 5 stars and 1-star reviews. So those are the outliers, and it's also quite different in terms of the categories. So if we look at the absolute numbers, no, actually. If we look at the relative number of 5 stars and 1 star, we're seeing, for example, and I can share my screen actually. Is that possible on the recording?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Down at the bottom on the button next to the red button.
So these are the categories. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. So you see restaurant there being sort of the top one where we see most review deletions. And we see a healthy divide here between sort of the 5 stars and the 1 stars. Basically, everything is being deleted, which kind of indicates a healthy distribution. Where if you look at home services, we see a vast majority of reviews 5 stars. Same for construction and same for medical. And that's interesting. And if you look at because we also have some data on when they were deleted. So you see here for restaurants, actually, there's a healthy divide. So these are more than 2-year-old reviews that are being deleted. But for home services, half the deletions happen within the first 6 months. Same for construction, and for medical, it's even more. So it looks like there's a lot of activity within these subcategories. Which could be Google's algorithm being a little bit harsher, but it could also, which could be a result actually of fraud, of more fraud in those categories with fake reviews, which would then reinforce each other.
There is a third theory that I uncovered when I investigated review takedowns when they first started picking up after the FTC agreement in 2022 or 2023. And that is that it was much more dominant in newer businesses, particularly in home services. And one of the ways that Google limits fraud is by making fraud take more time to execute, thus more expensive for fraudsters. So they targeted smaller home services businesses that, a bunch of individual locations, not big chains. And they made it very hard for them to get reviews for the first 6 or 9 months that they were in existence. So more of those reviews would be,
which is a kind of
down.
a catch-22, because I mean, I
Very
just
much
hired
so.
I just hired a plumber on Yelp, through Yelp, who didn't have any reviews. He didn't have any reviews at all. And I talked to him a bunch of times on text, and I took a chance on him. He was very good, and I wrote him an excellent review. If you're a business, I said, you don't have any reviews. How are you going to get hired? If you don't have any reviews, or you have a very small number of reviews relative to your competitors, the chances that you're going to get hired, that you're going to be visible, let alone get hired, are very small. So it's a trap. It's a kind of a catch-22.
That's assuming that you do your discovery with Google, Greg. I mean, I've learned plumbing and lawyers, locksmiths, I don't use Google for discovery. It's like, it's too dangerous in the United States. There's too much, as Mike pointed out in the green room. There's too much.
You're what people might call a sophisticate, Mike. Ordinary people are less aware of all these issues than you,
I guess. But I put out the word again. If you're looking for a lawyer or a plumber or a locksmith, don't go to Google.
Use word of mouth.
Use word of mouth. That's right.
Word of
Talk
mouth,
to your existing lawyer and find out.
But so back to you, Michel. Sorry for the digression there.
Public service announcement, not a digression.
No, but Mike's comment made sense, right? So Google is going to be actively looking on how it can make the cost of fraud higher. Yeah, I would say our customer base, especially the ones where we have reviews that are 2 years old, would have been with us for 2 years. So they would have been, I wouldn't say a lot of them are brand new businesses.
Among your customers, and do you do any review solicitation on their behalf, or is that entirely separate from what you do?
No, so that's up to them. So we provide them with the review link, and it's up to them. We do help them with setting review targets based on competitive scan, because we have within the industry. Sometimes you need 100 reviews to rank, and within other industry or auction, right, you need 20, right? You just need more than your competitors. So we help with that, but real review solicitation we don't do.
Do you have any sense of to what degree in these removed reviews these were valid reviews that Google had just swept up, like the dolphins in the tuna net kind of thing?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any sense of that?
we have because this is not the first time we've done this research. We've done another research where we did look at sort of what type of keywords or what type of sentiment can we pull from the deleted reviews. And there were a few patterns, I think, that emerged from that, but nothing that was really noteworthy. So I suspect there's an element there of context and value, but also freshness. Google wants to keep the review profile fresh. That's sort of justified deletion over time as well, right? I mean, for let's be honest, for a restaurant, if 2.5 years ago their sushi was great, I mean, that doesn't mean their sushi is still great now.
So
right?
that's a very interesting point of view. And Mike, weigh in on this. You think that in addition to whatever deceptive reviews or manipulated reviews or fraudulent reviews, Google is simply deleting reviews because they're too old and they think they're stale? Do you think that's going on? I mean, that's what you're
They
implying,
have
Michel.
in the past done that in mass. Whether they're doing it now, this is the only indication that we've seen that they're deleting. But we also know that they run this algorithm across different industries at different times, right? So they run it against new businesses differently than they run it against old businesses. So they'll sweep through, like every new business is under this filter. Older businesses, they'll sweep through periodically. So we don't know if we're seeing a new sweep or a new sweep with increased rigor, or whether we're seeing some desire to normalize the curve further away from 5. One of the things about getting rid of a lot of 5-star reviews is it shifts the bell curve of review sentiment, much like Yelp does. And one other point I'd make to the previous conversation is that understanding false positive removals, how many are really good reviews that get removed, is probably best charted by complaints in the forum that I gave to Michel. That's when people who are justifiably wronged come to the forum. One presumes that fraudsters are less likely to come to the forum and complain about the fake reviews that were taken down, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, we know that.
Cool.
So we know from previous conversations that Google is doing this dance between being aggressive with their algorithm and sweeping broadly and trying to not create pressure on their whatever skeleton crew of support remains, because that, or you guys, right, the product experts, because there's a direct relationship. The more that they turn up the volume on review filtering or what have you, the more complaints and review appeals come into the forums. And that's what the situation is now. And they've had to issue this, please be patient, your call is very important to us. It'll be answered in the order in which it was received, blah, 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 that we saw.
Yeah, sometime next fall, right? I look at it as more as not please be patient. Please don't bother us. We're not going to take care of it very soon.
Yeah, I mean, in Google's defense, I mean, how many of those requests did they get?
Well, but there's also real world business revenue at stake. I mean, many of these, put aside the multi-location brands and the franchises and the other sort of larger entities that have more marketing capabilities. I mean, for lots and lots of small businesses, and we've seen this time again in the news reporting, changes in their review profile, review fraud, or review extortion, all these things have a material impact on their well-being. There are real people and real livelihoods.
And Google's dominant position and their algorithm reinforce market victories, right? So their algorithm reinforces increased review volumes, which means that businesses that are located in certain areas of the city get more review volume. And then the ones that get the most review volume get shown more. And so their algorithm reinforces the potential inequities of retail distribution that might otherwise occur. So they have a responsibility because they're big to pay more attention to their societal impact, would be my
because they're a monopoly.
I have one more to add to that. So I think the reviews are also directly being used by AI modes, right, to understand what a business is good at, right? Because on one hand, you have a business saying, "Hey, this is my Google business profile. I do X, Y, and Z. Here's my website, and this is how I do it, and that's explained a little bit better." But then Google has the review signal to see what do people actually think about that, right? So as these reviews are more important to decide which business to show in AI mode. And I suspect Google is also turning the algorithm up because of that.
You made a very important point, but before we switch to AI mode, if you would show your screen the prompt about
Yeah.
incentivized reviews, because that's interesting.
Yeah. So this one, this is Google has 500 million local guides. I'm one as well. I think Mike is too. You're as well, Greg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a level 8.
Yeah, level 8 is quite an accomplishment.
I'm proudly a level 5. I'm only a middling participant.
I'm level 7, and that was hard. So, but I have stopped. I've stopped growing a level since I have kids. It's not possible anymore.
Yeah, I wrote this just real quickly. I wrote this review for the I don't remember if it was for the plumber. I don't think it was actually on Google, but I wrote a review recently, and after I completed the review, it was like fireworks, and you've got 21 points, and all of this nonsense about points, and it's just I feel like it's just so manipulative. I don't want to even participate. But go ahead, Michel.
Yeah. Google has recently introduced the fact that you cannot have incentivized reviews, right? And that is a violation of the terms of services. So that's I don't think that's very surprising, but like lots of people still has something to incentivize. What's interesting, and I've only seen this. I haven't seen this often, but this was the first time I saw it. Is that Google is using the 500 million local guides to check whether people or whether businesses are offering incentivized reviews, and if they confirm that, I suspect that all reviews that have been left from a local IP address or from a geofenced area around your business might be deleted and classified as incentivized. So yeah, think twice about offering free ice cream for leaving the review, because if there's a local guide in there and the algorithm flags that this might be going on and they confirm yes, you might have a problem.
Yeah,
Just a little bit of nuance here is that they've restricted incentivized reviews for a number of years, had a policy against it, but never had an algorithmic way to determine whether reviews were incentivized. So in the forums, we would submit proof, and then the earliest date that we could find proof for would be the cutoff date. All reviews subsequent to that would get removed. But now with this and with other AI checks, they actually have algorithmic ways to determine incentivization, which may be contributing to this increase in review takedowns.
Well, if this is being shown routinely to people, which is what I would expect, because you have to, you can't rely on isolated positives or negatives here. You have to have a consensus. So you have to show it to a lot of people, or consistently, maybe not everybody, but consistently, to get some sense of, is this actually happening? It becomes another source for potential abuse by people who want to, get rid of your reviews.
Well, the way historically these cards are shown, this one says, does this business offer rewards in exchange for reviews? Yes or no. But they're shown when you leave a review to a restaurant, you're then given a series of questions to answer in addition to your review. So it has a context. I don't think these are randomly generated. I think they're generated based on
no. This would be subsequent to a review,
or perhaps to a visit. We don't know.
Or to visits, yeah. But the visits are rare. It's usually review, especially here with the cards when they with a couple of cards lined up. Yeah, so it's interesting. I've never seen this before. So yeah.
Well, I have an impulse to talk about something which I don't think we want to talk about because it goes down a rabbit hole, but I'll just flag the issue to satisfy myself. So Google explicitly does not own the content of Google Business Profiles and reviews.
It's owned by the reviewer.
It's owned by the reviewer.
Left with the reviewer.
That's right. And because there's several legal reasons for that. Google is avoiding liability by not owning that content. And yet they are exercising control over it as though they do own it. So in the example of the stay review, forget about the fraud. That would be,
and they're using it in AI to generate new content about this business.
Right. So the stale reviews, for example, for the stale reviews. Like, I have worked hard to cultivate a review corpus over a period of years, totally legitimately. And here comes Google, and because some portion of my reviews are more than 2 years old, they get rid of them. They've gotten rid of my intellectual property, my copyrighted content without permission. I think that that's a legal issue, but we don't need to talk about it because we should move on to AI mode. I think it's an interesting issue because they don't want to take ownership because it's self-preferencing in the DMA. If they say we own all this GMB content, this is our content, then they've self-preferenced according to the DMA because they're showing that content way up in the search results. If they say we own this content, then any sort of defamatory stuff or anything that they're doing, such as I've described, where they're just unilaterally, summarily removing reviews, that's arguably a violation of my copyright as a business owner to some degree. I mean, I'm shooting from the hip. This has not been a thoroughly researched question. I think there's a problem there and an interesting issue. But let's talk about AI because this is a big.
So before we move to AI,
Yeah.
so in Germany, we're seeing trust in the Google review system being eroded because of companies massively filing defamation claims.
Right. Right. You pointed that out before. Right.
That's sort of the opposite there, where I think it's 99.9% of the deleted reviews, the deleted one-star reviews.
Well, that's a bunch of very cynical Germans and their lawyers.
Well, it's also local law. In France and Germany, it is a requirement that a reviewer has to have done business with a business, right? That's a law. In the United States, it is not a law, and thus Google allows reviews where a consumer interacted with the business but did not purchase from the business. So they could have called. They could have stepped in dog poo in front of the door and not gone in. They could still leave a review. In France and Germany, it's illegal to leave a review if you haven't done business. In Germany, they're using defamation law to drive
cynically,
takedowns.
Cynically. They're not doing it.
They're not doing it honestly.
They're abusing the system.
And then also across all of Europe, there is mediation. So if a review is unfair, a business can take it to mediation. Businesses that do, typically Google just throws in the rag and takes them down before it goes to mediation. So in Europe, there's many more ways. France, Germany's the worst, but there are many more ways across all of Europe to get these reviews removed.
Yeah. This brings to a close part one of this discussion with Michel and GMB API. And we are going to have part two next week, where we talk about how all of this plays into AI mode, AI overviews, and conversational local search and what the future holds. So please join us for that one.